Hi, my name's Phil and I like talking about politics, and prompted by some things Jeremy Corbyn has been saying about his role as leader of the opposition, I'd like to try and correct some of his assertions, but also discuss what he has the power to do as well as what power he lacks. But first, if you find yourself enjoying this video, then please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. So, I discussed Jeremy Corbyn's general plan for becoming Prime Minister without a general election, something he criticised Johnson for in the autumn, in the last week. But in this video, I'd like to focus in on a bit of a statement he made, what's wrong with it, and what the reality of the situation is. So he said, "I am the leader of the opposition, the leader of the Labour Party. All the constitutional precedents are when a government collapses, it's the leader of the opposition that takes over." Now, there are three things wrong with this statement. The first is his reference to being leader of the Labour Party. This is irrelevant, but it's an important point to pick up because the past few years have been confusing to people, even in the UK, simply because events have exposed how little they understand about how our constitution and parliamentary law works. The usual state of affairs for the UK is that a general election results in one party having a majority in the House of Commons. In modern times, the two parties vying for this position have been the Conservatives and Labour. One of them gets the majority and their leader becomes the Prime Minister. The other doesn't and their leader becomes leader of the opposition. But the reality of how both positions are chosen is only that simple because general election results have traditionally been simple in this country. But the reality is that the Prime Minister is simply the MP who can obtain the confidence of the House. This means that a majority of voting MPs back that MP as Prime Minister. Has nothing to do with the party systems. Boris Johnson didn't become Prime Minister by winning the leadership of the Conservative Party. He became Prime Minister because no Tory or DUP MPs gave the impression that they didn't support him in this role. This is likely to change this autumn, but that's the reality of why he was invited to form a government by the Queen. And similarly, the role of leader of the opposition, which does carry certain powers, also has nothing to do with party systems. The leader of the opposition is simply the MP who has the backing of most opposition MPs. This is generally the leader of the largest party in opposition, but if there's any doubt, then the Speaker of the House decides. This is why when Jeremy Corbyn lost his confidence vote by a massive margin a while ago, the question was asked of the Speaker if Jeremy Corbyn should still be leader of the opposition. The Speaker said that he should, as internal party matters have no effect on it. Unlike with the Prime Minister, the leader of the opposition can't be voted on by MPs. As Professor of Law and Public Policy at Cambridge, David Howarth, recently noted, if you let MPs vote, then the government party would win that vote and could elect one of their own as leader of the opposition. You'd then have no effective opposition at all. I mean, I know we don't now, but it would be totally bad. I mean, can you imagine the Speaker asking for the Leader of the Opposition to ask questions of the Prime Minister if the Leader of the Opposition happened to be the government's own Chancellor? "Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask the Prime Minister if it's true that he rescued 12 puppies at the weekend and then helped 4 old ladies across the road." It'd be absolutely ridiculous. So the Leader of the Opposition is decided upon by the Speaker of the House based on their belief as to who commands the most backing on the opposition benches. So, on to his second mistake. He says that all precedent says that it's the leader of the opposition that takes over. This is incorrect. The leader of the opposition has sometimes taken over. This happened 3 times in the last century. But there were another 3 occasions when a government was defeated, and it was someone else. In 2 of those occasions, it was a member of the government's own party, just not the leader. Finally, he's wrong in that there is no system for the leader of the opposition to assume the role of Prime Minister under any circumstances without gaining the confidence of the House. As I noted earlier, deciding the Prime Minister is a simple case of a majority of MPs backing one of their fellow members of Parliament. If Boris Johnson is defeated in a confidence motion, then the mechanism exists for Jeremy Corbyn to become the new Prime Minister, but he will need the backing of about 321 other MPs. But the Queen would not ask him to form a government unless he could demonstrate that he has this backing. And because it would need the backing of some of his traditional political enemies, this could only be demonstrated by either a letter from those MPs or a vote in the Commons. The Fixed Terms Parliament Act actually lays out the legal position in the event of a Prime Minister being defeated in a confidence vote. The House has 14 days to find another government or approve the same government, or it's general election time. With the Prime Minister, remember, who does not stop being Prime Minister just because they lost the vote, deciding upon the date of that election. If Corbyn were correct, then the Fixed Terms Parliament Act would simply state that the Leader of the Opposition would take over. I'd also point out that the issue of precedent, again, is actually irrelevant. Precedent means nothing if a newer law changes a system anyway, but precedent is also not on his side. One final little messy point, however. Let's say Johnson did lose the confidence vote and a collaboration of other parties formed behind a new Prime Minister, whether Corbyn, Clark, Grieve, Lucas or anyone else. It might be an odd situation deciding who then would be Leader of the Opposition. Technically, Labour, the SNP, the Liberal Democrats, Plaid Cymru, the Green Party, the Independent Group and several independent MPs, as well as a number of Conservative MPs, would all be supporting that compromise Prime Minister. We might have the bizarre situation whereby Boris Johnson is the Leader of the Opposition, with some Tory MPs on the opposition benches and others on the government benches. Now that is something I'd like to see. In addition, in terms of powers that the Leader of the Opposition has and has not, the Leader of the Opposition has the power to call a confidence vote in the government. Other members can sometimes do this, but the government could block it. But when the Leader of the Opposition does it, it cannot be blocked. In addition, what they cannot do is decide who is Prime Minister. They will get one vote, they can direct their party how to vote, but that's an issue for them as leader of their party. So anyway, that's the situation with Jeremy Corbyn trying to become Prime Minister. If he wants to become Prime Minister, the only way to do it is to get the backing of, at least realistically, 321 other MPs. And to do that, he'll need to build bridges. He can't force the situation through, and trying to make up points of law is not going to work anyway. I mean, that's the sort of thing Brexiteers do. And no one's suggesting that Jeremy Corbyn's a Brexiteer. So anyway, hope you found the video interesting. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.